Ashbrook Hollow was a town draped in fog, a place where the sun seemed to struggle to break through the dense mist that rolled in from the hills every morning. It was a town that wore its secrets like a shroud, and at its edge lay the old cemetery, a forgotten relic that had long since faded from the memories of most townsfolk. But for those of us who grew up here, the cemetery was a looming presence, a haunting reminder of the thin veil between life and death, and at the heart of it all was Elias Granger, the graveyard watcher. Elias was a figure of local lore, an enigma cloaked in the whispers of children and the cautious murmurs of adults. I remember staring at the cemetery from my bedroom window, the silhouette of the weathered gravestones and cracked angel statues etched against the backdrop of the fog. The stories we told about Elias were chilling, each one more elaborate than the last. He was said to wander the graveyard every night, a rusted lantern in hand, muttering in a language that sent shivers down our spines. Some believed he was a spirit, a guardian of the dead, while others thought he was something far more sinister. To us, he was the embodiment of our childhood fears, a specter that loomed over our dreams. Growing up, I was both fascinated and terrified by the cemetery. My friends and I would dare each other to approach the wrought iron gates, but we never ventured inside. The unspoken rule was clear. After dark, the graveyard was off limits. The tales of Elias were enough to keep us at bay. They spoke of his eyes, white and unseeing, ghostly orbs that glowed in the dark, and the way he dragged a chain behind him, the sound echoing through the stillness like a warning. I can still hear it in my mind, the clinking metal that seemed to resonate with the very pulse of the earth. As I reflect on those days, I can almost feel the chill of the night air, the fog wrapping around me like a cold embrace. The cemetery was a world unto itself, with its own rules and rhythms. The weathered gravestones told stories of lives once lived, while the unmarked graves whispered of forgotten souls. I remember the way the fog would swirl around the stones, creating shapes that danced just out of sight, and how the shadows seemed to stretch and twist, as if alive. Then came the construction team, a group of men with heavy machinery and grand plans to clear the land for new developments. They arrived in Ashbrook Hollow with an air of confidence, dismissing the old tales as mere superstition. I watched from a distance, heart pounding, as they began their work. But the earth had its own secrets, and the cemetery was not ready to be disturbed. One man went missing, swallowed by the fog as if the very ground had claimed him. The remaining crew searched for days, but he was nowhere to be found. Then, another man was discovered, hanging lifeless in a shed, his chest marked with deep scratches that spelled out a single word: leave. The town was abuzz with fear and speculation, and Elias became a topic of conversation once more, his legend growing in the wake of tragedy. Years passed, and I moved away from Ashbrook Hollow, but the memories of that cemetery stayed with me, haunting my dreams and coloring my thoughts. I returned only occasionally, each visit a bittersweet reminder of the past. The fog still rolled in, and the cemetery remained, a silent guardian of its secrets. I learned of the security cameras that had been installed to deter vandalism, yet they only captured more mysteries. Footage would glitch, revealing a shadowed figure standing motionless near a grave, a presence that lingered even in the absence of witnesses. The townsfolk were unsettled, and I felt a familiar chill creeping up my spine. It was during one of those rare visits that the dare came about. A group of us, now adults but still tethered to our childhood fears, decided to challenge one another to sneak into the graveyard. The thrill of the dare was intoxicating, and I found myself swept up in the excitement, despite the warnings echoing in my mind. As we approached the gates, the fog thickened, swirling around us as if trying to dissuade our advance. But we pressed on, laughter masking our trepidation. Once inside, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew heavy, and the familiar chill enveloped me. I clutched my flashlight, its beam flickering against the gravestones, illuminating the names etched into stone. We wandered deeper into the cemetery, our voices hushed, the laughter fading as the weight of the place settled over us. I could hear the rustle of leaves, the distant sound of chains clinking, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. Then everything went dark. I don't remember what happened next. One moment, I was walking among the graves, and the next, I was lying on the ground outside the gates, the night air cool against my skin. Confusion washed over me as I sat up, disoriented. My friends were nowhere to be found, and the cemetery loomed behind me, shrouded in mist. I felt a strange pull, as if the graveyard was calling to me, but I shook off the feeling and stumbled away, my heart racing. In the days that followed, I was haunted by dreams. Each night I found myself wandering the graves, a lantern clutched in my hand, the flickering flame casting eerie shadows. I could hear Elias's mutterings in the distance, the sound of chains dragging behind me. The boundary between my reality and the spectral realm blurred, and I was left questioning what was real and what was merely a figment of my imagination. I tried to dismiss the dreams, to convince myself that they were nothing more than the remnants of a childhood steeped in fear. But the more I tried to ignore them, the stronger they became. I would wake in a cold sweat, the echoes of my nighttime wanderings still fresh in my mind. The cemetery, once a distant memory, now felt like a part of me, an inescapable tether to the past. As the nights grew longer and the fog thickened, I found myself drawn back to Ashbrook Hollow, compelled to confront the graveyard that had haunted my dreams. I stood at the gates, my heart racing as I pushed them open. The fog swirled around me, and I stepped inside, lantern in hand, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The cemetery was as I remembered it, a silent witness to the passage of time. I walked among the gravestones, feeling an inexplicable connection to the souls buried beneath the earth. The air was thick with tension, and I could hear the faint sound of chains dragging in the distance. I followed the sound, my heart pounding in my chest, until I found myself standing before an unmarked grave. In that moment I understood. Elias was not just a guardian of the dead, he was a part of the cycle, a bridge between the living and the departed. I felt a shift in the air, a presence surrounding me, and I knew that my journey was not just about facing my fears, but about embracing the legacy of Ashbrook Hollow. As I stood there, lantern flickering, I realized that the graveyard was not a place to be feared, but a sanctuary of memories, a reminder of the lives that had come before. Elias Granger was not just a specter, he was a keeper of stories, a watcher of the graves, and now, I too would carry that mantle. In the end, Ashbrook Hollow was not just a town lost in fog, it was a tapestry of lives intertwined, and the cemetery was its heart. As I turned to leave, I felt a sense of peace wash over me, the weight of the past lifting. Elias may have been the graveyard watcher, but now I understood that I too had a story to tell, one that would echo through the ages, whispering through the fog that enveloped our small town.